everybody can see that. Okay, and mostly yeses. Okay, we're good to go. All right, I'm going to start recording. You're going to hear a brief silence, and we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone, to QB Power Hour. Today's May 17th, 2018, and today's episode is Managing Open Invoices in QuickBooks Online plus Invoice Sherpa. The agenda for today, we'll talk briefly about QB Power Hour. We'll talk about the CPE process, and we'll focus on, what kind of reports can we get in QuickBooks Online when it comes to open invoices? How do we manage open invoices? And then we'll talk about a third-party app called Invoice Sherpa that really allows you to manage receivables and reminders in a much better and deeper way than QuickBooks Online can. And I think soon they will have QuickBooks Desktop support. For the time being, as far as I know, it's only QuickBooks Online, but we'll allow the Invoice Sherpa folks to give us a refresher on that. So we are a webinar series about twice a month, every other Thursday. The next episode will naturally be on May 31st. We have no foreseen interruptions in the every other Thursday calendar for the next 3 or 4 months. So you should expect pretty much in your calendar every other Thursday will coming up. We'll talk about tips, tricks, and other advanced insights on QuickBooks Desktop and online. We're going to focus 100% on QuickBooks Online and the third-party app today in particular. Michelle Long, my co-host, is not presenting with us today. She's actually doing a QuickBooks Online tour. She's been doing it this month and next month because QuickBooks Online is on the road teaching people how to get certified in QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Advanced. Check out her books in Amazon. Check out her LinkedIn group. And about myself, I live and work in I'm Hector Garcia. I live and work in the Miami area. I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom that I have here in Miami. There's my email and there's my Twitter handle if you want to communicate with me. I'm pretty open to helping folks with their QuickBooks questions. We'd like to thank our regular show sponsor, T-Sheets, #1 rated app in apps.com. Create, manage, and approve timesheets from any device. Become a T-Sheets Pro by going into tsheets.com/pros. And you can become a T-Sheets Pro, get a free account for yourself, get certified so you know how to recommend T-Sheets to your customers. T-Sheets is a Intuit company now. It was in case you didn't know, it was bought out by Intuit. Also sponsored by Aero Workflow, the only workflow manager created by a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, pretty much thinking of the QuickBooks Pro Advisor, but more of the QuickBooks Online accounting community. Check them out at aeroworkflow.com, AERO workflow.com. And by HubDoc, the most popular document aggregator for QuickBooks Online, very powerful document manager, and automatically download receipts and bank accounts, and you get a free account for your own practice. HubDoc.com/QB Power Hour to get your free account. Now, this particular episode is sponsored by, whoops, my full screen went away. Let me just fix the logo while I'm at it. It's sponsored by Invoice Sherpa. You can automate recurring invoice revenue and invoicing for QuickBooks. I put desktop and online. I'm going to take out desktop for a second because desktop was still in beta as far as I knew, so we'll get clarification on that. But you can automate automatic revenue, automatic invoicing, automatic invoice reminders, all through Invoice Sherpa. Check them out at InvoiceSherpa.com. We will have them during the second half of the presentation to showcase the demo. This webinar is available. It's eligible for 1 hour of CPE or 1 CPE credit. You must attend the webinar live in GoToWebinar. If you watch it, the YouTube recording, it doesn't give you CPE. You must be logged in for 50 minutes. You have to answer at least 3 out of 4 polling questions, and we will email your certificate in about 3 weeks. This episode is not approved for ACE, and you can email qbpowerhour@gmail.com if you're missing any CPE certificates. All right, so let's jump right into the topic here, and I'll be talking about these 4 things. We'll talk about open invoice reports in QuickBooks Online. We'll talk about the default text for emails and reminders for invoices. We'll talk about sending reminders in batch, which is kind of a hidden feature, but it's there. It's really useful. And we'll talk a little bit about recurring invoices for it. So let me go ahead and get out of that. I'll minimize this, and I'll open up my QuickBooks Online. Let's open up QuickBooks Online real quick here. There we go. Good. Okay, so I'm logged into QuickBooks Online Accountant, and I'm logged into my own sample QuickBooks Online account that I use. And we're going to cover all those topics that we mentioned, which we'll talk about one of them each at a time. The default text on the emails is kind of a pressing topic because every time you send an invoice, there's this text that comes up, and sometimes that text doesn't necessarily jive with maybe the your style or your business, so you may want to change that. So let me just add some context here. I'm going to go ahead and log into my books, and I'm going to create a new invoice. And let me maximize here the browser screen, and I'm going to pick any of my customers here at random, and I'm going to email this to myself. Okay, just so we can track that email when it comes in, and then I'm basically going to select the hours or the service, whatever it is that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to click on Save and Send, which is in the bottom right of the screen. By default, you can click on Save and Close, but if you click on the drop-down menu here, you can click on Save and Send, and you can also use the Control-Alt-M shortcut for that. So if you don't want to click, you hit Control-Alt-M, and it'll go straight to the Save and Send screen. Now, the Save and Send screen is this pop-up that comes up that basically it tells you, okay, this is what the invoice looks like on the right side, and this is what the subject looks like, and this is what the body looks like. One of the most very usual common questions we get is, hey, how do we change this default text? Now, yes, I could change that default text on the fly while I create the invoice. That's completely up to you. And I chose my own email here just because I want to see it on the email when it comes in. So this would obviously be your client's email, not your own email, right? So then we'll click Save and Close, and that's what the customer will get. Now, if I want to change what the customer will get, I click on the gear menu and I click on Company Settings, and then I'm going to click on Sales. So on the left of the screen, we're going to click on Sales. Then we're going to scroll down, and we're going to have two areas here. One says Messages, okay, and the other one says Reminders. So just to clarify, the one that says Messages, that just means email, your default email, okay? On the default email here, there's a couple of interesting pieces here that they're worth looking at. One is the form itself. So you can actually have a custom form for an estimate, a custom form for a credit memo, a custom form for a sales receipt, a custom form for a statement, okay? On the text, you have the option to include the invoice number in the subject line by using this, bracket, invoice number, bracket, okay? There's a page, I wonder if I can get to it. If I get to it, I'll show it to you. That shows you what all these little codes are, so you can know exactly more or less how you would use that code. But for now, you can actually use the codes that you see here. So for example, if you got the first name, you can actually type here and say, hello, and you put bracket first, okay? That will basically bring the first name from the invoice. And we'll here is your invoice, okay? One of the things I like to put in the messaging, it says, if the balance is 0, then keep this for your records, and I'll explain to you why I say that. And otherwise, remit payment ASAP, okay, whatever happens to be. The reason why I actually type this is because there's no way to customize what the messaging looks for a paid invoice versus an open invoice, which is one of the big pet peeves that I have, because sometimes a client says, hey, can you send me a copy of the paid invoice for my records? And the default text says, please send payment as soon as possible. And sometimes I forget to change that, and then it really confuses the client. So what I've done is, for my own file, I just created something generic that says, if the balance is 0, then keep this for your records, otherwise remit payment ASAP. It basically covers my bases just in case, right? So that will cover my bases just in case. And this will include the invoice number in the subject. And then in here, by default, it will show me the company name that's invoicing. So I'm going to put here from Hector Garcia, CPA, so I can actually change that if the company name is something that's not relevant to your customer. you can then put whatever you want. So this is exactly what it would look like. Something I also suggest is always BCC yourself. So I'm going to put here my own email, and I'm going to blind carbon copy myself, because I do want to have a record in my own email on when those emails were sent. I found those to be relevant. In other cases, a client may call me, I'm out on the road, and may say, look, can you resend me this invoice? I can log into my email and just forward the email that's sitting on my invoice. I mean, technically, I could use the QuickBooks app and do it from there, the actual mobile app, but I don't use the mobile app at all. So I like blind carbon copying myself. I find it just very, very useful. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and click on save. Then I'm gonna click on reminders, and this is different. Okay, the reminders is very different than the actual email. Now, if you notice here, it says here insert placeholder. This is to kind of insert this little tags here. So if I actually click on insert company name, it will bring this in. So I can say, so company name, this will be my customer's name, right? For some reason, you know, it doesn't allow me to quickly insert the company's first name, but I actually do see the information up here. So you got most of the tags that you're going to use, like the first name, the last name, the company name, the display name, and the invoice number that you can use in combination. So I can put here and I can type here friendly reminder or something like that. So I can actually change what this looks like up to you, right? Really what you want. One of the things I'm not a big fan of QuickBooks Online is that it only has one level of reminder. So if I'm reminding someone for the second time or the third time, it doesn't keep track of how many reminders it has been, and it doesn't get increasingly mean as I'm reminding people more and more, which to me it's actually kind of a big deal. Yeah, one of the common questions I have, which is the answer, I don't have an answer for this, is how do I put the invoice amount in the message itself? So I'm going to check to see if that information is out there, but I don't know if there is a code for the invoice amount. So the only a placeholder that I know is this here, the full name, company name, last name, and the company name and the invoice number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And I'm going to email me a copy for sure. For some reason, on the reminders, I can't BCC myself, but I can I can just CC an email copy to me. So that will solve the messages. So what does that mean contextually is if I open up any invoice, I'm going to open up the same invoice I just created. I open up any invoice and I click on save and send. When I do save and send, I'm going to have now my new text. Okay, here's my new text that comes in from that email. Okay, so that's actually really important. I'm gonna go ahead and click on send and close, so that email was sent out to my customer. Then what happens if my customer doesn't pay me a month later, a year later, or something like that? I can actually send my customer reminders. So the way you do reminders, and there's a couple ways to do it, but I'm going to show you what I think is the fastest way, is we click on the sales tab, okay? And the sales tab will actually give you a couple of options. It will give you all sales, it will give you invoices, it will give you customers and products and services. So what we want to do is we want to click on all sales, and we're going to click here where it says filter. So we're going to click on the filter button, and we're going to select invoices, and we're going to click on status open. That way I'm only looking at open invoices, and then I click on apply. And then this would essentially be a report that shows me all of my open invoices. Now I can actually click on this little export button here, and I can export this to Excel, which actually would be useful. I have some clients that actually like to export the open invoice report into Excel, and they give it to some folks that call the clients and add notes in Excel and give it back to some sort of decision maker, because QuickBooks doesn't really have a good sort of collections activity report. That's an option, right? So you can actually export all your open invoices and maybe add some notes. Let me just fix here the formatting. Maybe add some notes in there, right, of all the open invoices that you have, and if the customer promised to pay you, whatever happens to be. That's an option. I don't think it's the best one, but it is an option, and some people do use that. So some of the things that people do is, let me maximize this again. Some of the things that people do is they'll add notes to the invoice itself to kind of remind themselves that they spoke to the client. Again, QuickBooks Online is not really a CRM system, so it doesn't give you powerful features in terms of that. But you can actually click on the invoice itself, and you can add some notes here where it says message displayed on the statement. And again, you have to be careful because that's displayed on the statement. But if you spoke to this client and this client said, you know, sorry, I could put here, John promised he would send payment by Thursday or whatever happens to be, right? So some people would add notes in there, not on the invoice notes, but more on the statement notes, assuming that you really don't use the statements and just save it. And then let me close that for a second. And then on this report, you can actually click on. Actually, this one doesn't give it to you, but I'm going to show you on the other report side. You can actually show. Oh, there it is. It's on their memo. So you can actually enable memo. There it is. Sorry, I haven't seen it. And you can add the memo there. So that this is like sort of one way you can manage collections, right? So you enable the memo and add it in here, and this could be basically one view in which you can look at all your open invoices and the memos, and that could be relevant. Again, you can do it in activity notes as well, but it's another comment that people give me is say, hey, look, why don't you just put it here in activity notes? You can put it in activity notes as an option, so I can say, you know, promise to pay 5/20/18, whatever. So I can put it on the activity notes and I can post it. And that's one way to keep track of conversations, which I think is great, but I don't get the activity notes on this report. So that's why I actually like putting them on the statement notes, because I like to see them on this report right here. So I would say absolutely you have the options. Now, if I were to resend this invoice to the customer, they are not going to see this note. They're going to see only that note. They don't see that note. They only see that on the statement itself. So in some cases, if the notes contain something that you don't want the customer to see, you have to delete that before they see it on the statement. Although I'm just very careful and make sure I don't write anything that I don't care about the customer seeing there. So that's why I particularly like to have it in the memo section, because I want to see it in this place. Now, the other thing I like about the screen is I can actually select multiple transactions at once. I can click on batch actions, and I can click on send transactions. And I know that doesn't sound very, that's just a strange one, send transactions. But if I click on send transactions, that actually means send the actual invoice. So that just sends the invoice over. But then you have this one that says send reminders. And this one will send reminders in batch. Now, before I do the batching, let me do a quick send reminder here option to show you. So I click on the drop-down screen and click on send reminder, and that will pop up my reminder window. And then in here, you're going to see the reminder. And if you remember, I wrote the word friendly reminder, and I wrote the word invoice number, and then the number of the company. And then here's the text that we had default in there. So we can do one by one by clicking on send reminder, or I can click on several and click on batch actions, send reminders, and this will send both two reminders in batch, both in one shot. So that's actually good to see. Now I'm going to open up my email real quick just so you can see what that reminder looks like, and I should be getting those reminders via email here. So let me open up the email, see what that looks like. So there's the reminder, right? So it says here, friendly reminder. Here's the text. Here's the dollar amount. Okay. I don't have a logo set up for this company, but that gives you an idea more or less. Okay. And of course, I don't have payments enabled on this one. If I had payments enabled, I would have a pay now button in there. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Let me see what questions we have here. And then I'm going to run the polling question pretty soon now. Give me 1 second. Okay, so some people are saying, let me see, let me open up the questions here. So can you send an attachment with the invoice? So the answer is yes, but you cannot send an attachment with a reminder. So Yes, you can send the attachment with an invoice, but you can send an attachment with a reminder. Is there any way to schedule automatic reminders? The answer is no, Joanne. There's no automatic reminders in QuickBooks Online, which is probably one of the reasons why I like Invoice Sherpa. So that's really their area of expertise there. And that's the problem that there's one of the problems they're solving for. So we'll ask them about that because I think it's really important. The other one is client wants overdue statements to go automatically. Can this be done? So let me just add some context here. He's asking about creating a statement, which is going into the quick create button and clicking on statement, and then selecting the customer that's going to have the statement for. So let me just do all here, just so we can see a couple of customers here that we can choose. So you pick the customer that you want to do a statement for, and you create the invoice through here. That is an option, but the answer is no. You still have to click, and you will have to click here where it says save and send. So if you actually wanted to send a statement to any of these people, you would have to go into the screen. You have to select who is the customer that you want to send the statement to, and click on save and send, just like that. There's no way to automate statements. There's no way to tell QuickBooks, look, every month you should send the customer the statement of what's of all my open invoices. So again, you have to create statements manually by clicking on the quick create button and then clicking on the statement options, and that has to be done one by one. It cannot that cannot be automated. Okay. Now the other piece here is recurring invoices. So let me show you recurring invoices for a second, because this is actually very relevant. So I'm going to create a new invoice, pick a customer here at random, and then let's say I'm going to type here monthly accounting services. So let's say for whatever reason I have this client and I charge him monthly accounting services, and let's say this is $300. Okay, and I'm going to make this starting April 1st. Okay, so this is the invoice that I want to send my client, right? So I'm going to click in the bottom of the screen where it says make recurring. So it's a little drop down menu. Hopefully you saw that. Maybe I did it too fast. But in the bottom of the screen, make this a little bit smaller here. And let me go back into the invoice. Okay, so there's the invoice. I'm going to click in the bottom here where it says make recurring. I don't know if you can see it with my cursor there, but it's on the black line all the way in the bottom. And you're going to click on make recurring. And then the recurring window will pop up, and then we'll ask you, okay, what exactly are you trying to do with this recurring invoice? So you can say, I can create a reminder. And by the way, that has nothing to do with email open invoice reminders. That's a reminder of reminding you to create the invoice. It's a whole different story here. So we're going to do a scheduled, and we're going to do it, let's say 3 days in advance. So that means that on the 1st of each month, the invoice will be created, but it will be sent to the client 3 days before. So let's say we're going to do monthly on the 1st of the month, and the start date is going to be May 1st. We'll set it to never end. And this is the trick here. This is the one really cool thing that QuickBooks has, is this checkbox that says automatically send emails. So if you hit that checkbox, QuickBooks will automatically create the invoice and automatically email it every single month. But that's only when you set it up for recurring, and that's only when it's creating the new invoice. There's no way to tell QuickBooks, hey, go ahead and email all the invoices that I haven't emailed yet, or that I forgot to email. That cannot be done automatically. You do have to program it with the recurring email, with the recurring invoice. Okay. All right. Let me run a quick polling question, and we'll pull it up in a second. I'm also reading the other questions. So this is called recurring invoices. Okay, so go ahead and answer the polling question. Polling question that is not up. Why is it not up? Okay, start polling question. There we go. Okay, and then while the polling question is up, let me go ahead and read the questions that we have here. We have a lot of questions. So somebody else is asking, can you do recurring statements with Invoice Sherpa? Okay, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to go ahead and ask the Invoice Sherpa folks to answer that for us, because I really don't know. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, just going through the questions. There's quite a bit. Is this the first polling question? No, this is the second polling question. Let's see. Okay. What if you want to charge your client automatically through their credit card? Can you set up automatic recurring invoices with a credit card? So if you have payments enabled in QuickBooks, which is an additional service that you have to set up, and you create a recurring sales receipt with the credit card information saved, then yes, you can actually automate QuickBooks to automatically take the money out of the client's credit card, but it would have to be a sales receipt, not an invoice. Okay, somebody says, I noticed that clients are sent emails when an invoice is modified. Can you turn this off? So there's no feature to automatically get an email sent out when the invoice is modified. If the user clicks save and send, that's going to happen. So it really has to do with the QuickBooks user clicking save and send. Okay, just going through the questions here. In regards of recurring transactions, mention that you can also do recurring sales receipts with automatic payments. The checkbox must be checked and the customer will receive. Okay, yeah, that's a really important one. When you create a recurring sales receipt and you have payments enabled, you have to enter the credit card number, and you also have to hit the checkbox that says automatic charge the credit card. If you don't hit that checkbox, you just save the credit card number for no reason, and it doesn't actually do the transfer of the funds. So Lisa, thank you for covering that. Okay, all right, let me go ahead and close the polling question. I'm gonna switch over to the Invoice Sherpa folks. I have other questions, about QuickBooks Online specifically, so I'm gonna go through them, and if we have time at the end, I can go back to it. Shawn, I'm gonna give you presenter access. So I'm transferring over presenter access to you so you can share your screen. Okay, and Shawn, you want to unmute yourself as well?
Yep, I'm here. I thought Kelly was actually going to kick us off here.
Yeah,
okay.
If you want to make me presenter, I'll just go through a few quick slides to sort of set the tone, and then we'll...
Okay, that was an internal fluke from my part, so I'm sending it over to Kelly now.
Thanks.
All right, so we got two folks here from Invoice Sherpa, and Kelly, we can see your screen.
Awesome.
Something about don't become a statistic.
Don't become a statistic.
Okay, go ahead.
So we just prepared a little bit of information about why this is so important. We know you guys are accountants and bookkeepers. We know that you get why having such very tight invoicing processes is so important, not only to your own business, but to your clients. But just to set the stage, get everyone on the same page, we put together a little bit of a slideshow presentation, and then we'll kick it back over to Shawn, and he'll actually take you through the product. So, and actually, Hector, so let me introduce myself. My name is Kelly Bistriceanu. I'm the Senior VP of Business Development over at Invoice Sherpa. One of the things I specifically take care of is our accounting partner program, or actually what we call our trusted advisor program. Some of you may recognize me or know me. I actually worked for T-Sheets for a very long time and was the person who created and ran the T-Sheets Pro program that Hector so kindly talked about at the beginning, which always makes me smile. And with me, I'm very lucky to have the founder of this amazing product, Invoice Sherpa, Shawn Clark. So I'll let Shawn introduce himself quickly.
Hi, I'm Shawn.
Shawn's not going to brag about himself since we're short on time, but he is definitely an impressive dude, and he's the one who came up with this entire concept for this product over dinner with his wife one night. Very similar to the Scott Cook story, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, the Intuit, how Scott came up with the idea for Quicken story. So actually, Hector, if you don't mind, can we go ahead and launch the poll that I sent you? And I can launch it if you'd like.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm prepping up that one. So I did it backwards. So I'm prepping up that one. I don't have that one ready yet.
No worries. Well, we'll just talk through it and then I'm trying to think. We'll just go ahead and move on, and we'll come back to it when Hector's ready.
Yes, I'm finishing now.
So what we wanted to talk to you guys about is why cash flow is such a big issue for so many businesses, and why Shawn ended up, why he even had the idea to create this product in the first place, and essentially why what's in QuickBooks and online today is not enough for the majority of your clients to remain healthy from a cash flow standpoint and potentially even stay in business. So we built a little scenario for you. This is Bob. Bob might be very similar to some of your clients. He runs a home inspection business. He sells directly to consumers, obviously, since he does home inspections, he's selling to individuals who are buying homes. And Bob thinks he is like absolutely crushing it. He thinks his business is booming because he sees about 40 different customers a month, and he charges $500 for his services. So in his mind, his annual income is $240K. He's making bank because he really doesn't have any employees. He doesn't have a lot of overhead. It's really just him. He views that basically as a salary. But the truth is, Bob's about to go bankrupt. And this happens to businesses. I personally know a couple of business owners that something very similar to this has happened to. And the question is, and I know all of you being accountants and pro advisors and bookkeepers know the answers, but your client would go, how the heck is this possible? I thought I was making so much money. And that's where you come in. In this scenario, the bookkeeper's name is Sally. Sally runs her own business. Sally has about 50 clients. Bob is just one of her clients. And Sally's done a great job at her job. It's not that Sally's not doing her job that Bob's about to go out of business. It's that Bob's clients are not paying him on time. Bob has a DSO, which stands for Day Sales Outstanding, of 120 days, even though his invoices come over with their terms are pay upon receipt. Like as soon as you open this invoice, you need to pay me. But they're not doing that. And he has no system in place to ensure that he's following up with these customers after the invoices are sent out. He just assumes the money is coming in and he's letting Sally handle it. And he never asked Sally specifically to handle accounts receivable. So in his mind, everything's fine. Sally's been doing what she can, but she's not being paid to be essentially a collection agent for Bob. And the truth is, he now has no cash to continue running his business. He's basically burned his runway up, and this 120 day delay in collecting from his customers is just, it's caused him to essentially fail. So not only does Sally have to give Bob the bad news, but she's going to lose him as a client. And some of this might feel familiar to some of you. You may have been in a situation where you've tried everything you can for a client, but their customers simply are not paying their invoices on time, and the delay has become so bad that they can't afford to pay their current expenses, maybe even can't even afford to cover the taxes they're going to end up owing at the end of the year, and they need to essentially admit defeat. Hector, we can launch that slide or that poll whenever you're ready. Feel free to interrupt.
Okay, perfect. You may have queued it up a little bit with your
everyone might get this right, but it's okay because it's
right.
It's for CPE credit anyway.
Right, exactly.
It's a multiple choice question.
Hey, Kelly, while this polling question is up, and we're pretty sure what most people are going to answer here, but the DSO, can you explain quickly how people calculate that, just so we can frame that number around something? What exactly was DSO? You said that you have a client that has 120 DSO, and that's a number that it doesn't come out of nowhere. Like it's calculated somehow. What is that number?
It's your average. It's the average balance in your accounts receivable divided by the actual amount of revenue collected in a period of time, then multiplied by that period of time. So if you're using a year, which is a pretty standard way to calculate it, it would be your average AR balance, which let's say for Bob's instance, it's $50,000, divided by his actual revenue. So what was actually collected, not what he invoiced for, but what was collected. And let's say it was $140,000. And obviously that's going to give you a decimal number because you're dividing a much smaller number by a larger number, but then you multiply it by 360 or sorry, 365, whatever you get, that's the DSO. So some businesses, they have a DSO of around 30. That means that they're being paid within 30 days after the due date of their invoice. That's not great, but it's okay. The average small business in the US has a DSO of 60 plus. And it varies a little bit from B2B to B2C. B2C businesses tend to have worse DSOs than B2B businesses, meaning those who sell business to business tend to collect at a more effective and efficient rate than those who sell to consumers. And by the way, this is only credit sales. This doesn't include cash sales because obviously when someone's paying cash, you collect right upon the minute you're making the sale.
So let me close the polling question, Kelly. Thank you for that. And then just to add some, your screen is showing again. So you wanna, do we switch out to Shawn now, or do you have another piece you want to finish? Okay.
Let me just
so
do
just
a couple.
To add some, if you don't mind, let me add quick context to that. So cash flow is a generic number that everybody uses, very loosely. Even 88% of you answered that 88% that cash flow is one thing they worry about. But that cash flow is a term that means different things to different people. But DSO is a term that means the same. It should mean the same thing to every single person, which is an actual measurement of cash flow. It's how quickly you get paid, how quickly money comes in from the credit sales. So I think it's just an important number to explore for anyone that wants to do some consulting on cash flow. Is figure out what the DSO number is first, so then you can create plans around that's a measurable result that bookkeepers and accountants can provide to their clients. Sorry, just wanted to add some context to that.
That was a great question. And it's something that if you're an accountant who chooses to work with Invoice Sherpa, we actually go through that with you. We teach you how to calculate it for your clients and actually how to position it as a KPI that you measure with your clients on a consistent basis and offer a service that we call DSO optimization, which is basically saying, look, your DSO is here. The optimal DSO for your type of business is this. Here's the steps we're going to take in order to get you from where you are today to where you need to be, because a poor DSO can absolutely put you out of business. So this slide is, I'm sure Hector will send out the slides and follow up, but this slide is just to show you that this is really an ongoing circle. B2C businesses, don't pay their B2B vendors when they're short on cash. And then those B2B vendors therefore have to cut their own, the owners typically will cut their own take home before they'll cut anything else. That means that the consumer, them as a consumer, ends up not being able to pay the B2C businesses. So it's just this giant circle that is just ongoing. And it's partially because collections, the way it's handled today is just overwhelming. The way collections need to be done, it's someone in your organization or someone in your client's organization having to remember to make multiple phone calls, send multiple emails, and basically start to harass your customers. You start to feel like a creditor. Or you don't do that, but then you don't get paid. Unfortunately, then you don't get paid on time, and then you end up going out of business. So it's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And as what we would have shared if we would have done this in the normal order, but you might have seen the statistic on the slide. 82% of businesses fail because of a cash flow issue, guys. That's huge. That means 82% of your clients every single year are at risk of going out of business due to cash flow. So I'm going to kick it over to Shawn now, and I'm going to let him show you how Invoice Sherpa, the steps that Invoice Sherpa has taken to make getting your DSO under control much easier, and essentially make the process of collections much less painful. And then if we have time, we're happy to answer questions, and we can go over more of the slides if you guys would like.
Perfect. Shawn, you're the presenter now, so you can take over. And so some folks are asking me to post the DSO formula. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the Wikipedia page in the chat that explains how to do the DSO calculation. And Kelly, if you have a different resource for that, go ahead and post it in the chat as well.
Sure.
Go ahead, Shawn.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for sticking with us today and checking out our demo. So yeah, so I started Invoice Sherpa on my kitchen table about 4 years ago, and it was really because I was at a dinner conversation with my wife, who's a CPA, and a couple of her friends who are CPAs, and they were just sort of bemoaning the fact that a lot of their clients were having big cash flow issues. And when I sort of asked them some questions about it, because I'm a software developer by nature, so I had no idea what cash flow was. It turned out that they would send out these invoices to their customers, and then lo and behold, people wouldn't actually pay them on time. And it became a real issue, of course, because their bills continued to come in, their expenses continued to pile up, but they weren't able to meet those obligations. In a lot of cases, it would actually put them in a situation where I learned a new term called a going concern, which I think is accountant speak for going to go bankrupt. And so I thought, well, what if we could find a way to get people to pay a little faster? And so I did some digging, and I realized that reminding somebody to pay an invoice is kind of like reminding you to show up at the dentist tomorrow. It's really the same thing. Most of the people who aren't paying their invoices on time are not sort of nefarious, evil individuals who are trying to stiff a business. They're really just people who've forgotten that they need to pay something. And so that's where Invoice Sherpa came in, and that's kind of what I've worked on for the last 4 years to try to help solve those problems for a small business. So the first thing that you see when you log in, so we connect to your QuickBooks account, we can grab all your data out of there, primarily just the invoices and the contacts. And then our goal here, and I apologize for the demo account being kind of sparsely populated, but the goal is to give you a snapshot of exactly where your invoices are right out of the gate. So no special reports and no configurations and any of that stuff. We're just right in your face. Okay, here's my 0 to 30, here's my currents, here's my 3160, 6190, etc. Here's how much people owe me overall. These are my average days outstanding. All right, I've got a really good snapshot of exactly where my AR picture is. I'm ready to rock and roll. Over on the side, we're keeping track in real time of everything the system's doing. So, we sent this email out to this person, they opened it, they clicked it. We sent this reminder, they opened it, they clicked it, just so that you have an idea of exactly kind of what's going on right out of the gate. We do a little basic reporting, hey, here are all the people who owe me money, and these are the people who owe me the most, just so that you can get an idea as you're kind of manually trying to go through and assess the situation. Who do I need to focus on first? So what's the low-hanging fruit? It's probably better to go after this, C1 Industries person. They owe me the most money. Let's focus on them. Let's find out what the situation is there. That's probably how you're going to be most effective for this business. We'd show you any kind of scheduled or upcoming actions that the system might take, and any recent actions the system has taken, and you can preview those. And I'll kind of get into detail on how that works here in just a minute. So anyhow, after you've sort of gotten your snapshot here, the real power of the system is in the fact that it's automated as much as possible. So walking over to the invoice reminders, we have what's called a reminder schedule. And this is really, while it may look a little complex, it's pretty simple. It's just actions you want the system to take prior to the invoice being past due, and actions you want the system to take after the invoice is past due. And then all these little blue squares up here are all the different actions the system can take. So for example, we can send emails, we can send text messages, we can make live phone calls, we can send internal emails to internal staff to take action, we can send statements, we can send credit memos. So just all kinds of different touch points, either out to your customer or out to an internal staff member to prompt them for action. So,
Shawn, can you just hold on a second? So just I want to know, because this is obviously a big change from what QuickBooks can do. So you will send an email after someone pays your invoice saying, here's the paid invoice, right?
Yes, you can, and we highly recommend that you do.
Absolutely, I think that's one of the most important things that almost all my clients and even myself, we forget to do sometimes, is to say, hey, you gave us money and that's wonderful. We love you for it. Thank you. Sometimes we forget about that. And I think one of the reasons we don't do it is because our QuickBooks text reminder, when I talked about my piece, is that there isn't a different piece of text that it's defaulted for paid invoices. So we're like, okay, well, the client, I'm going to confuse the client by sending them another copy of the invoice, unless I specifically say, we got your payment, thank you very much, right? And then that takes time. So you guys automate that, you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a couple of different uses here. So let's take this opportunity. So what I did here was, down here it says invoice paid thank you email. It's a step on the schedule. You can come in here and you can preview it, or you can jump into the template editor and you can actually edit the whole thing. So this is a good opportunity to show you how we can customize email sort of top to bottom, subject lines, header texts, colors, logos, body, all that stuff. So you can do this with all of the emails. But the cool thing about the thank you is it works actually on 3 levels, and a lot of people don't quite realize this. So one, it thanks people for paying a bill, which nobody ever does. So first of all, you'll get these really amazing kudos from your customer that'll blow you away. 2, it serves a very functional purpose, which is people want a receipt of payment, and that's exactly what this is. And then 3, what's really important for SMBs these days is reviews, reviews, reviews. And so another great thing to do here is you can customize the body text to actually put in a link, for example, or a button that says, hey, we hope you had a great experience with our company. Click here to leave us a Google review and let us know what your feedback is. And people love this because when you leave reviews, you show up higher in your Google search rankings. And so it actually helps your business grow when people are going to Google to search down, carpet cleaner, Santa Rosa, California, or bookkeeper, Chicago, Illinois. You'll actually show up higher in the search results. So there's a lot of really fun uses of this email that can help you and can help your customer at the same time. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
And just another, so this is not invoice that you're creating in Invoice Sherpa. These are the same invoices you're creating in QuickBooks Online, correct?
Correct. So the great thing about our system is it's designed to not interrupt your current workflow. So all of the data that we're getting, we're pulling out of QuickBooks. So when you update a contact, we get an update. When you create an invoice or update an invoice, we get an update. So you don't have to come into Invoice Sherpa. Really, once you've set the schedule up, it's kind of set it and forget it. So we kind of run in the background. We automatically sync back and forth with QuickBooks. And so really, once you've got this all ready to go, it's really a one-time deal and you're done. Now, earlier we were talking about how QuickBooks can't really vary up the conversation as you go along. Well, that's precisely what we can do. So you can see here over in the past due section that we're sending out a 7-day, a 30-day, we have a 14-day in here. We're doing this person's getting a little aggressive. We've got an email and a text message going out on the 7-day, which you can do. But at each of these steps, these are unique templates. So you can dive into each of them and you can actually customize and change up how your language flows. And so as things sort of progress on, you can get sort of more and more aggressive with people. And, depending on your situation, there can be different levels of consequences to that. And so, so we can absolutely do that. And then on top of this, we can actually do this for groups of customers. So if you look up here in the top right-hand corner, we have US clients, UK clients, and Australian clients. That's just a particular division that this account shows, but you can actually do it in any way you want. And the more traditional way I see it done is some people will say, well, I've got this group of smaller customers who I'm happy to kind of bother on a more regular basis. But I have these really huge customers who, quite frankly, I don't care to ever send them any kind of automation. Can I just send myself internal reminders? And the answer is yes. So you can divide your clients up into different groups and speak to them all in different cadences. So that's often a really important feature for almost every business, because everybody's got the big customers who pay big bills, and a lot of people have smaller customers who they're a little more aggressive with. So we sort of support all of that. Now, when the system first got started, it was all about, okay, I send an invoice to a customer and then they have 30 days to pay it, and then they don't pay me, and then we start sending them reminders, and that was awesome. But as time has gone on, a lot of businesses have moved over to a recurring payments model. And what's great about a recurring payments model is, in essence, you're creating recurring invoices every month with your customers, and they're automatically being sent to them. They want to pay you. They know you. It's a regular business that you've been doing with them. And so as a result, you don't want to force them to have to come in every time and actually pay that invoice manually. So what you can do is, if you have a recurring invoice in QuickBooks that just gets generated every, whatever it is, could be month, could be week, could be quarter, we'll pull it in. You can actually add your customer's payment information in here, either ACH/e-check or credit card. And on the due date of the invoice, we'll automatically pull funds off the payment method. And assuming that that payment method goes through, so assuming the credit card gets charged, we'll take the funds based on the balance of the invoice. And then we'll actually, once the funds have come down, we'll actually post the payment back into QuickBooks and close out the invoice. So in essence, what we're doing there is we're completely automating the cash flow cycle and the collection cycle. And at that point, the only possibility of your business not getting paid on time is if the payment method bounces. So for example, let's say a credit card bounces. Now in that case, we'll actually follow up automatically, and we'll let the customer know, hey, we tried to charge a credit card and it didn't work. And we'll automatically attempt via email to do what we call reactive revenue recovery. We'll send them out an email saying, hey, we tried to charge this invoice, it didn't work. Please click here to update your payment method on file. So, so we have this entire sort of system that first tries to charge an invoice. When that doesn't work, we'll automatically follow up with an email to collect an updated payment method. And then once they update the payment method, we'll go ahead and try again to run that recurring payment method. And again, all of those payments then get posted back into QuickBooks. So believe it or not, this is actually a real advance just in terms of trying to bring down your collections and your DSOs, because in this case, it's not just reminding somebody to take action, it's actually taking action on their behalf. And it's worked out famously for a lot of our customers, especially as we move to more of a recurring charge environment. And it's particularly applicable, I think, to the bookkeeping and accounting community, as you folks are moving away from sort of the hourly rate and moving more into fixed price billing. So you can actually use this for your practices as well. Couple other quick things to show you. So we have automated late fees. So you can, we'll automatically post late fees at different intervals. So, and we support late fee percentages, late fee amounts. We also support the higher of the two or both. So try to really cover the gamut in terms of late fee schemes that we've seen. One pro tip here is we often find the threat of a late fee is more effective than the late fee itself. So if you are going to charge a late fee, it's best to put a step back here on the schedule at a couple of days prior that tells the person, hey, 2 days from now, we're going to assess you a late fee. We often find that prompts more action than actually assessing the late fee. And if they do take action, it saves you the time of having to go back in when they say, well, all right, fine, I'll pay my invoice, but I'm not paying the late fee. It saves you the time of having to go in and delete the late fee off the invoice, because of course we post that late fee back as a line item on the invoice inside QuickBooks.
So that was the question. So you don't create a separate invoice for the late fee, you add a line item to the existing invoice.
We actually support both options because we've been asked to support both options, but preferably in our situation, what I would recommend to most people, especially small business owners, so that they don't have to track 2 invoices on or more, is just to do the add line item, which is what our sort of default stance is.
Okay, and Shawn, we'll go over a couple minutes so you can cover more things, because there's a lot of questions I have about the functionality of the software itself, but some people do leave at top of the hour.
Okay,
so
I'll turn on the afterburners here. And
yeah,
blow.
no,
Okay.
Let me run the last polling question. That way we can get last people. And then for some context, there's something called the Invoice Sherpa Advisor Program. Can you tell us about that real quick? So I can
quickly while we give Shawn's voice a break, and then power through the rest of it. So just like I'd mentioned at the start, very similar to like the T-Sheets Pro program or some of the other very well-known app partner programs. Invoice Sherpa has created a partner program just for accountants and bookkeepers, accounting professionals of all kinds, in order to help you better educate yourself on things like DSO, things like cash flow issues, and how to then fix them with a tool like Invoice Sherpa. You get a free account, you get escalated support, you get a designated account manager, as well as we've put together a very robust proactive tool of resources that you get as soon as you sign up. So instead of having to learn about our tool and then come to us and say, hey, I'd love to bring this to my clients. Could you send me a one pager, but could you add my logo to it? We've actually given you all those things up front. Like you get a one pager that has a place for you to edit it yourself and add your logo, a presentation that has a place for you to add your own pricing details, as well as versions that you don't have to change at all. And those are just two of what's now like 10 or 15, it's grown quite a bit, resources. It's a library we're always adding to, and you get it as soon as you sign up. So it's
Is there a cost to the program, Kelly?
Nope, it's a totally free program for the accountants. And of course, it gives your clients a 20% discount if they are to choose to use Invoice Sherpa. And that's a lifetime discount. It's not a 1 year or anything like that. 20% discount for life. And so if you're interested in learning more,
if you want to learn about the software, if you want resources on how to calculate things like DSO, if you want a free account for your own practice, is that right?
Exactly.
And to give your clients a discount on the app if you would recommend it, then you join the program. So you're just going to email people a link to that or something like that?
Yep. If you say yes, then we will go ahead and we'll register you and we'll get in touch with how to access your account. If you say not at this time, but I'd like to see a demo, we'll contact you to get that set up. And then not at this time, then we will just follow up with the basics from this presentation.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let's I'm going to go ahead and close the polling question. Kelly, I didn't want to cut you off because I want to make sure that we close the hour with the poll. And I'll leave Shawn on if you can stay for another 5 to 10 minutes. There's a lot of questions about the software itself and what it does and what it doesn't do. So can we move on to that? Do you mind?
No, not
sure. Can I show one quick feature actually?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I was just going to say we also offer a customer portal where you can give your clients the ability to log in and see all of their outstanding invoices, all of their past invoices. And so if you have clients who call in and say, hey, can you send me that invoice from last September? You get that a lot. This is a self-service method to be able to do that.
And Shawn, around that, so right now, we don't have any. We're not in a rush, so it's okay. We'll let's finish showing everything, because the folks that that are interested will stay for another 10 or 15 minutes. So in this portal, can the client enter their payment information, or do they have? Or is this something?
Yep. So they can enter payment information, pay invoices, update their information that's in QuickBooks. So if they have an address change or a phone number change, they can do all of that in here.
And is that white labeled, or does it have the Invoice Sherpa?
No,
logo?
it's all white labeled. So you'll have your logo, and you can also embed it in your own website if you'd like. So we offer sort of both options.
Okay, that's awesome.
All right, happy to answer questions. Where would you like me to start?
Okay, well, there's a whole bunch. Go back to the different ways to remind people, and then this question was, I had this question, and somebody were asking, send live phone call. Is that like a robocall? What is that?
No, okay, so, no robocalls. So we actually have a live person on staff who will call out and represent themselves as essentially your AR department. The goal here, of course, is not to get into the weeds. It's simply to, what we often find is that human beings respond to human beings best. And in fact, if I could, this would be the only way I would ever do this, because people are very effective.
Muted.
Emails can often be ignored. Text messages, while I think are more likely to get through, can also be ignored. But it's funny how human beings have a hard time ignoring another human being. So basically, this just is a permanent situation where we'll call out and basically say, hi, this is so-and-so from such and such as our department, just following up on this invoice. See if I could collect payment today. And you can customize the script, but in essence, that's what we're doing there.
Okay, and the staff reminder would be to remind someone in the company to, hey, you probably should contact this person.
Yeah, because a lot of times at some point, you will want someone internal to your staff or yourself to take action. Oftentimes that's a phone call yourself, or it even could be sending it to a collections agency or calling a collections attorney, something like that. So we just give you sort of that opportunity.
Okay, and it says send statement. So that means you can automate the statements every month.
Oh
at
yeah,
the end of the month?
absolutely. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, is there a payment portal on the reminders? Is there a payment link or a payment portal?
Yeah, by default with all of them. In fact,
Okay.
that's nearly required. Yeah. So on every single one, there's a green button. You can't miss it. Pay now.
Is there one on the statement? On the statement
Yeah,
reminder?
yeah, absolutely. There is. Yes, there is.
Okay. Now, what payment gateways do you use? What payment processors?
Well, we have our own, just in case you don't have one, and then we also have we'll support QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Payments.
And PayPal as well? Will you support? Do you have a?
Yeah, we do have.
Unmuted.
We have a bunch of them. We have Pace. We have Stripe. We have Authorize.net. So we try to give people a multitude of options.
Okay, so you can use your existing QuickBooks payment, and they're all going to be between 2.7 to 3% for the most
Yeah,
part.
I mean, this is all just like, this is like buying car insurance, right? Like it's really just or corn or something. It's a very commoditized product at this point.
It's a very commoditized product. You're right. Okay. Late fees. Somebody was asking, do you charge late fees on top of late fees?
Yes, because that's how late fees work.
Right. So if they're late one month and you charge $30 and they're late another
and then
month.
they decide that they don't want to pay you again, then the late fee will be assessed on the new amount. Absolutely.
Okay. You said something about waiving the late fee. I think were you just talking about like just like as a good business practice to use
I mean,
the late fee?
I don't know about you, but I mean, I just find that most people don't like late fees, right? And when they do come around to paying the invoice, they're a little offended by it, and it just depends on your power situation with your client. If you have a lot of power with them, maybe you don't have to succumb to it. But just generally, if you're in the business of good customer service and someone's going to pay that original invoice, a lot of times people, I mean, I don't know about you, but in those situations where I'm like a day late or something, I'll call up and say, look, this is ridiculous. I'm not paying that late fee, but I will pay that invoice. What do you want to do? And I find 99% of the time, people will back down off their late fee. But that just means that somebody has to go back into the accounting system and manually remove it. And that's just a big waste of time. If you could instead just prompt them to pay you the first time, it's always easier for everybody all the way around. And the way to do that, at least in our system, and what I found most effective is 2 days before this late fee hits, like, so let's say you're going to do it at 30 days. At 28 days, you send them an email. Hey, we're at 2 days from now, we're going to hit you with a late fee. And it's amazing. With that threat alone, people will just pay.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're not in the business of late fees. I mean, unless we were a bank.
Well, yeah, and you just,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
most people don't want to be in the business of late fees. I'll tell you that.
Okay. And can you choose not to charge a late fee on top of a late fee? Because somebody says, look, in certain states, that could be a compliance issue.
So when you do the individual invoice feature, so by default, as I said, it adds a line item. But if you choose to do individual invoices, which I think is actually more true and standard for accounting, it will just keep referencing the original invoice for the late fees. So the late fees will actually always be based on the original amount. You'll just create individual invoices, which from a timings perspective, from a financials perspective, if you're doing accrual, that's more accurate anyhow. So that's why we do that.
Oh, so you do have a choice to not add a line item, just create a separate invoice.
You'll just get, for every late fee, you'll get a new invoice, which is represents that late fee being booked into QuickBooks for that original invoice.
Okay, and can you talk to me about pricing? So of course you're offering a free account for accountants.
Of course.
From what I understand. So that's actually thank you for that. That's great because a lot of accounting professionals, they want to feel very comfortable with it first. They want to test it first. They want to see that it works before they start recommending it. So we appreciate that very much. But to the end client, what's the cost like?
Well, it just depends on it depends on their volume, and then I believe we're also offering some discounts as well. Kelly, do you know what the latest discounts are?
Yeah, so it's standard pricing. If a small business just finds us on their own from our website or something like that, it's $49.99 for 100 up to 100 invoices per month. So basically $50 for 100 invoices per month. And then there are tiers higher than that. However, most of QBO's customers are below 100 invoices or below. So that tends to be the most popular vertical with QBO. Obviously, if they come through you, then they do get that 20% wholesale discount. So they would get to take 20% off of that $49.99, but still get the 100 invoices per month. And in terms of pricing for the payment solutions, that really just depends which payment solution you're going with. If you would like to use our native one, then there's sorry, the screen is changing, so I was just trying to make sure we're still going. If you'd like to use our native one, then there's a small, very reasonable credit card charge fee, which I can find out the exact amount for you if you are interested. And if you use your own, then that's whatever you're paying with them, and there's just a very small connection fee, and it's 0.04%.
Yeah, I think most people would, most QuickBooks Pro advisors would recommend QuickBooks Payments anyway. So you can use QuickBooks Payments and pay an additional 0.004% if you use QuickBooks Payments. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and it's actually, if depending on where the leads come from, sometimes we just have that set up automatically. One thing I'm working on is being able to, you as the accountant, save your payment choice of your payment platform of choice within your profile, and then we just know automatically what to put your clients on.
Okay. And the last question was around QuickBooks Desktop, because I know you guys had announced that you were going to support QuickBooks Desktop. Is that, I don't know if that's soon or what the story with that is, because there are a lot of people that support QuickBooks Desktop. It's coming
up. It'll be ready by the end of this summer, 2016, going back in time, 2018. And if you do have, a handful of clients or even just one or two clients who are on desktop and you do feel like would be a good fit for this product, I'd love it if you'd send me an email so that I can put you on our beta list. Obviously, we would offer Invoice Sherpa to your clients for free for a period of time once the desktop integration is ready to beta, which should be late July, early August of this year. And my email is just Kelly, KELLY, @InvoiceSherpa.com. And the last thing I was going to say is also that if you are a QBO user or like a QBOA user, Invoice Sherpa was also one of the 15 apps chosen to be a part of the new provisioning app provisioning tool that's in the process of being rolled out. We'll be in a launch that one of the launches that's happening later in the summer, but it will be a part of that QBOA app stack as well.
Yeah, which means that you'll be able to purchase the app for your client at a deep discount.
Yep.
For the folks that are not aware of that.
Through QuickBooks Online directly.
Perfect. Okay, and so that's it. So QuickBooks Desktop, you said summer of this year or later on this year. Is there a hard date on that?
By end of summer 2018 is what I've been told.
Okay. Well, we're gonna put your words in practice and require that, because there's still a lot of QuickBooks Desktop clients out there, especially the big ones that require.
I'd love to talk to you about beta testing.
Yeah, you can sign up to the beta testing on the website, right? You go to InvoiceSherpa.com, you click on pricing, and you click on early access for QuickBooks Desktop, and you'll get an email on how to beta test it, correct?
Correct. And if you have a particularly large group of clients or a particularly large client, email me so I can make the people running that beta aware.
Perfect. Okay. That's it. So if Kelly, can you give your email out one more time, just in case somebody missed out on that polling question and how to become an Invoice Sherpa advisor and get the free account for the accountant?
Sure. Should I just put the slide back up, or should I put it in the chat?
In the chat? Put it in the chat.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. So we are go ahead and gonna wrap it up. Okay. We went over 15 minutes. So I apologize about that. Hopefully we covered most of the content in the first hour for the folks that left. This is being recorded. So anyone that obviously is not listening to me at the moment, but that left early can get all that Q&A session in there. Shawn, if there's any last words, or are we good to go?
I'd just like to say thank you very much for everybody coming and the opportunity to present to you today. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So once again, thank you, Invoice Sherpa, for sponsoring the episode and showing us your app, and also creating an advisor program to get a free app for our own practice. We love that we appreciate that very much. Okay, some of the upcoming events that we recommend, just coming up in a couple of weeks, we are Scaling New Heights in Atlanta, Georgia. If you have not signed up for it, check them out, wooderevents.com. It's a 3-4 day conference all about QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, and just accounting advisory as a whole with technology. And then later on this year in November, we'll have QuickBooks Connect, which is into its own QuickBooks conference, mostly around QuickBooks Online. So I recommend both of those. Again, thank you to our regular sponsors, T-Sheets, Aero Workflow, and HubDoc for supporting the show for the past year or so that you've been a sponsor. Check them out, tsheets.com, aeroworkflow.com, and hubdoc.com. And some of the upcoming webinars we have are on a regular 2-week schedule, so you can expect every other week to be an episode. We're working on the topics as we speak. We don't have any of the topics yet, but there will be QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop type of topics. And check out my podcast at facebook.com/Art of Advisory. That's live on Tuesdays at 12 p.m., all about advisory services for accounting professionals. Thank you very much for attending QB Power Hour and to staying with us over time. Continue the conversation in our Facebook group. Look us up, QB Power Hour. Ask questions to the community, comment questions about the app, questions about QuickBooks. And there's our email if you have any topic suggestions or sponsorship app recommendations. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.